All right, this is Dr. B, and we are live here just outside of Washington, D.C. That's where I'm streaming from. It's about 8:30 at night here for us. So today we're going to look at metals and nonmetals and really look at how we can use these to identify the types of compounds that we're dealing with in chemistry. So this is like a core concept. If you can't do this, you're going to have some problems. Before we start, I had a question for you, though. Where you're at right now, is it day or is it night? Because right here, it's night. It's really dark. So if you could drop that in the chat, I'd be really interested in hearing whether it's day or night where you're at. All right. So we'll do about 10 or 15 minutes, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll really understand these metals and nonmetals. Let's jump over to my display here. And there we are. Okay. So this is the trend right here that you really, really want to internalize. So if you can do this, if you can remember this trend right here, you're going to be in good shape. And here's how it works. We have the metals, and they're on the left side of the periodic table. Then the nonmetals are on the right side. But there's one exception. So what is the big exception with the nonmetals? That's going to be hydrogen right here. So when you look at hydrogen right here, why do you think hydrogen is with the metals, not with the nonmetals? Turns out that hydrogen has one valence electron, just like everything in group 1. So all of these have the same number of valence electrons, and all of these form ions that are 1 plus when they form bonds with these nonmetals or when they become ions. So they put hydrogen over here. That's what you really need to remember. So take a second and burn that into your memory, and then we'll go over and do a little bit of practice. AP Chemistry, oh yeah. All right, so we have some people that it's night here as well. Nobody that's morning or day? Okay. All right, so you've got this memorized. Here's a periodic table without that information. And these are the group numbers up here at the top, and we kind of shrunk the transition metals down. How about oxygen? Is oxygen a metal or a nonmetal? So it's over here on this side of the periodic table. That makes it a nonmetal. How about neon? Neon's a noble gas, but the noble gases, they're over here, so they're nonmetals. How about, I don't know, copper? Copper's a transition metal, so that's not too bad. And you're pretty sure you knew I was going to ask this one. What about hydrogen? Yeah, hydrogen, that's one of the nonmetals as well. So when you look at the trend, it's helpful to remember that aluminum, that's a metal, so that's on the metal side. Tin, that's another metal. Lead, those are metals. And then when you see carbon and phosphorus, that's kind of where the nonmetals start. All right, not too bad, right? Let's see. So what we'll do now is once you know how to do the metals and the nonmetals, now you can tell what type of compound you have, whether you have an ionic compound or a covalent compound. And that's real important because we name chemical compounds. The rules we use are based on whether it's ionic or covalent. So you really got to know that. So let's bring ourselves up here. And right there, if you have a metal and a nonmetal, you will have an ionic compound. If you have a nonmetal and a nonmetal, it's molecular. And these ionic compounds transfer electrons, so they've got a different type of bonding. The molecular compounds, when you have nonmetals here bonded together, they share. That's when you do your Lewis structures and stuff like that. So if I were to give you a compound like, let's say, how about MgF2? So what would you end up with if you had MgF2, ionic or covalent? So you've got Mg, F, metal, nonmetal, that's going to be ionic. What about if you had something like, let's say, H2? What would that be? So you have hydrogen. Remember, that's the nonmetal. You have two of them bonded together. Nonmetal, nonmetal. Molecular, it shares electrons. So as chemistry students, you really need to know this information here, and then you have to know your metals and nonmetals. So how are we doing here? How are people hearing me? Can you hear me clearly? Am I visible? It's kind of a bit difficult. This is actually the third time I've streamed, so I'm still kind of learning this. And I find it kind of jarring not to be able to interact directly like I would with a class. So in the chat, let me know if you can hear me, if this is coming through clear. All right. So let's go down and let me show you how we might use this information to understand an ionic bond. Thank you, Fran, for letting me know it's all good. So for sodium, we have this metal here. Thank you, Chloe. We have a metal and a nonmetal. So we know it's going to be ionic, and we're going to transfer electrons. So sodium, I'm actually missing one here. Let's put another electron there. Yeah, sodium's in group 1. It has one valence electron. Chlorine, that is in group 17. It has 7 valence electrons. They're the outer shells. So when these come together, sodium loses an electron, and it's transferred to the chlorine atom, to that outer shell. Since electrons are negative, now it has an extra electron. It's negative. It's a negative ion. Sodium, it lost that negative charge, so now it's positive. So this has 8 electrons in the outer shell, very stable. Sodium, though, it lost that. Now it has 2, 4, 6, 8. It's very stable. So these guys here, they're attracted, and that's your ionic bond. Lots of times they'll put parentheses around like this, and that's to show that the electron here was lost or transferred from sodium. So when we're talking about metals and nonmetals and ionic bonding, this is what we're ending up with. Any questions for me right now that you're having about any of this that's confusing to you or you want to know a little more about? You can drop that in the chat if you have something. Okay. So at this point, we can use this to name chemical compounds. So if I told you calcium chloride, actually let's say calcium fluoride, how would you write the formula for this? So first off, calcium and fluorine, metal, nonmetal, it's ionic. And then you have to know the trend for charge. So it goes 1 plus, 2 plus, skip these guys, 3 plus, 4 plus, 4 minus, and then it goes down 3 minus, 2 minus, 1 minus, 0. So calcium's right here. Fluorine is right here. Close, close. CaCl3, that's not actually a compound. Close, though, for calcium chloride. So if we wrote calcium and we put the 2 plus here and then fluorine, we said that's 1 minus. Yeah, there we go. Kubar, you got it. You need 2 of these 1 minuses to balance out the 2 plus. So you can just take and get rid of that. Actually, we don't want to get rid of this. And this, calcium fluoride, would be CaF2. So we figure out whether it's ionic. If it's ionic, we have to use this information up here, and then we can name it, make the charges balance. So a lot of things going on here, right? And if you can do that, you really are doing well. You're getting far into chemistry here. All right, let's do some more. Do one or two more. How about we do something a little bit more difficult here? I seem to have trouble with my thing here. There we go. Let's do calcium phosphide. So see if it's ionic or covalent, and then deal with the charge. Here's calcium right here, and here's phosphorus. I did a stream on this earlier. No one got this one right the first time. Oops. Now phosphide, we're here with the P. All right, so I'm going to show you the crisscross method. This is one of my favorite methods, and it really helps you do this quickly on exams and quizzes and stuff. So here is the crisscross method. You take calcium, Ca, which is in group 2, so 2 plus, then phosphide, that means phosphorus right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 over, so 0, -1, -2, 3 minus. We're getting closer here. Phosphide, when we talk about phosphide, that just means P. Like oxide would be O for oxygen. Kabar, you've got calcium phosphate. Pretty good, but not calcium phosphide. So here's the crisscross. You ready? Take the 3, move it down here. Take the 2, move it down there. Get rid of that stuff. That's it. Ca3P2 is calcium phosphide, and that's that crisscross. You could check the charges as well. We said this was 3 minus, so 2 times 3 minus is 6 minus. Said calcium is 2 plus. 3 times 2 plus is 6 plus. Cancels out, right? Is that making sense? How about I let you try another one? How about, so you can use the crisscross for this. Calcium, now how about magnesium? Nitride. We do nitride, yeah, nitride. And nitride is nitrogen. Nitrate would be NO3, but we're talking about nitrogen for nitride. Give that a try. No one got this right the first time this morning, or yesterday morning either. Should be getting close to it on this. Crisscross them. Yeah, Kubar got it. Mg3N2. A little bit messy, but there we go. That's magnesium nitride. So we're going to wrap up here. And what I'd really like you to go away with this evening is that when we think about metals and nonmetals, like we thought about up here, if you remember this trend here, you'll know which are metals and nonmetals. Then you know that metal plus nonmetals ionic. And then you need to use these charges when it's ionic here. And you can write the names using things like the crisscross method or making your charges, making sure they balance. So let me come back over here to me. So that's what I got for you tonight. Like I say, this is my third stream, so this is all a little bit new to me. It's very different than teaching to a class like I do at university or I've done at high school. So really trying to learn this. It's probably as hard for me to learn this as it is for you to learn chemistry. So I appreciate that we're all in this together here. Let me wrap up and put that link I told you about for that PDF file. This is the one I use with my students, and let me put it right in there. There you go. So the link is in the chat, and if you just click on it, it'll download the PDF for you there, and you can use that and tie some practice problems and so on. Yeah, that's it. So I would ask you if you honestly could suggest one thing that I could do better to make my streams better as I go on, and try to improve here. So, and you can be honest, you won't hurt my feelings. So if one thing I could do, drop that in the chat. I'd appreciate it. And I'm just gonna kind of hang out for a few minutes in the chat here. I think I'll turn my sound off for a bit, and yeah, try that. All right, this is Dr. B. Thank you very much for watching. All right, everybody. That's it for me this evening. Thanks a lot. I'll